Thank you so much for coming. Yes, I know. So thank you so much for coming. We are live streaming. If you would like to tweet this out or to Facebook it out or Instagram it out or do smoke signals or whatever you kids are doing these days, it's video.skeptrack.org. Video.skeptrack.org, please. Please share that information. So next up we have Mark Gura, who is the president of the Atheist Alliance of America. He is the secretary of Atheist Republic, which is the largest atheist social media website on the planet, he informs me. The president of Mindful Meditation and president of Secular Buddhism. Please welcome Mark Gura.
Thank you so much, Angie. Thank you, Mark, Derek, everyone. And thank you all for being here. This is actually the most important presentation in the world, and especially in DragonCon. So thanks for being here. Any skeptics in the audience? Woo, all right. So as skeptics, we spend hours evaluating household products, electronics, ghosts, goblins, and other scams. How about evaluating our own life, our own trajectory in life? A trajectory is a thing, right? I mean, if an automobile is, like in this example, is traveling and is at some point, it's going to be hard to go backwards or, maybe impossible depending on the road, depending on the situation, or go left or go right. How many of you are evaluating your life right now? Wondering which direction to take life. Right on. Don't worry, I've been doing that for the last decade. So here we're going to be taking a 10,000-mile view evaluation of our lives. And rest assured that if you don't change anything in your life, it'll likely stay as it is or keep going down that trajectory. So thank you for being a part of my trajectory. This is actually the first time I'm doing this particular presentation. So it'll be part of my new book. So we're on this journey together. So thank you. That's awesome. And hopefully you'll take something away from this presentation, something that you'll take with you throughout your whole life. And it'll help you. And the first time that I saw a trajectory-changing event in action was with my parents. So a lot of you may not know, but I was born in Poland, right? And I was born in Poland during communist times. So basically, this was the Poland of long bread lines. The government controlled the means of production. You basically went to the store and you couldn't buy anything because there were shortages of everything. You had to wait like 20 years for, I'm not exaggerating, for an apartment, for a car. There was social equality. Everybody was socially equally poor. Just couldn't really have access to anything. But the way Poland wound up, and I don't know if you guys know how this happened, but Poland was attacked by Germany from one end during World War II, and from Russia from the other end. A lot of people didn't know that Russia came, or the Soviet Union at that time, came as a friend and an ally, but they kind of stayed after the war and took over. So all those Iron Curtain countries, a lot of them, most of them, were not there, by choice. They basically got trapped, by the Soviet Union. And so they were forced into that system. So my parents, kind of resisted and fought, but they knew they couldn't probably change that system in their lifetimes. So what did they do? They thought, well, let's get out of here. Let's blaze new trails, go to different places. So they changed their trajectory. Imagine like your parents getting rid of everything they own, taking a few suitcases, and immigrating to another country. So that's what I did with my parents. So, because we had in Poland, we had the psychological needs were met. We weren't starving. The esteem needs were met, love, social needs, but safety as far as economic safety and progress, that was not available. So we moved to France. So as a child, I grew up in France a little bit, wound up, and I didn't speak English at the time. I spoke French and Polish. And so we lived in France, in Paris, and that was a cool place. I loved it. I almost became a French citizen. So, I mean, I still have a European citizenship, and, but right now, at that time, the countries were separate. There was no EU. So I almost became a French citizen. And then, guess what my parents did? They thought, well, France is great. All the needs are met. But once again, France had a government that kind of restricted a lot. So you couldn't really upwardly climb very, very much. And so they thought, we had family in the States. I also have family in Sweden and in England. But, we had family in the States. So they decided to move us to Texas, right? So I grew up in Texas, in suburbia, right? So I had to learn English. It was a totally different culture. So it was kind of weird, because I had seen the communist system, the Central Eastern European system, and then the Western European system, and the way people lived there, and the beliefs that they held, and the culture that they had. And then Texas, suburbia, right? You guys are all familiar with that, what that's like, right? And throughout the whole process, no matter where I was, I felt discontent, anxiousness, stress, unsatisfaction. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many of you feel stress, discontent? I've actually talked to some people, and they were like, what are you talking about? But I think we're all familiar with that. My discontent hit really hard after high school. And so, basically high school, is just a mess, or can be, and so I just felt very dissatisfied. So what does an average red-blooded person do to solve this dilemma? What would you do? That's right, I partied. So I partied my ass off in high school, and it was great. But somehow, I kind of felt a little bit still dissatisfied and empty. Like, the more I partied, the more empty I felt. And so I kept feeling that discontent, anxiety, and stress. And so I thought, well, maybe the problem is that I'm not economically successful, and I need to work and do all those things normal people do. And so I started a business, an advertising company, and I was young, and before I know it, I had all these older people working for me, and a little bit of money started to come in, but I was still dissatisfied. I still felt that stress, and I was like, if I keep doing this for the rest of my life, I'm going to be like my parents, just working all the time, and then, you get old, and, so that anxiety, that stress, that discontent kept coming. So I thought, well, maybe it's just because I'm ignorant of the world. I need to find out, what life's about, right? I need to find out about philosophy and psychology and all that kind of stuff. So what I did was I had my manager run the company, and for like 6 months, I went to the library every day and just brought home stacks of books on every subject and just read, philosophy, psychology, self-help. I mean, the self-help thing, is kind of cool because it motivates you. It shows you can do things with your life. You can change things. So it kind of helped. The philosophy helps you understand things. I also thought about, family, friends, the social life, that kind of thing. But I was starting to see that I'm going to fall into this pattern of, just living a normal life, and, which is fine, but it just wasn't for me. I just felt that discontent, stress, anxiety. And so then I thought, well, maybe the problem is that I'm not religious enough. I need to really study religion, right? I mean, I was born Catholic. We lived in a communist system. But, religion, a lot of people were just high on religion. So I started to study the different religions around me, right? Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. But the people that I met in all the different religions locally, I realized that they were just everyday people living everyday lives, and they tended to read these books, these religious books, memorize them, regurgitate them. They were like regurgitators of knowledge, right? And I thought, wow, they're just like anybody else. They just memorized some books. Maybe the true teachers are somewhere out there in the world, right? So, and I kept feeling that discontent, anxiety, and stress throughout the whole process. So I'm going to share with you what I discovered, but later. So what does an average red-blooded person do to solve this dilemma? Yeah, you guessed it. So I decided I'm going to buy a sailboat and I'm going to sail around the world. And so I told my girlfriend about it. I told my roommate about it. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And then they realized I was serious. And so needless to say, I didn't do the sailboat thing because it's too much. This was going to be an adventure with all of the three of us. We were going to buy a sailboat, learn to sail, all that kind of stuff. So I decided, I could just, why don't I just put on a backpack and travel? I'll just take the money that I have, and whatever happens, I might never come back to the United States. I might live on some island somewhere. I might settle some tropical island. I might just, perish somewhere. Who knows? I mean, there were times when I walked in the world somewhere where no one had known where I was for months and months, and they thought I was in Bulgaria, but I was really in Istanbul somewhere, and in some periphery. And so all kinds of things could have happened. So I thought I'd travel for a year, but I wound up traveling for 3 years around the world, and have seen around 90 countries now. And, I definitely studied the religions where they originated. Islam, I studied with hardcore Muslims. Hardcore Muslim before 9/11, in countries where I wouldn't go now anymore. But, we sat there together, and I just really looked into their hearts, and I asked, and just what is this the truth? I told myself, you know what, I'm going to follow the truth wherever it leads, And of course, I studied Christianity. I went to go meet Mother Teresa. We were in Calcutta at the time. It was called Calcutta. And we knew she lived in Calcutta, and she had this hospital, this shelter. And I told Michelle, I said, hey, let's just go see Mother Teresa. And she's like, she's never going to see us. Come on. And so I thought, well, screw it. Let's just knock on the door, see what happens. I knock on the door. This nun opens the door, and she grabs me, and she says, come on in, come on in. She thought we were part of the group that's standing in the lobby from Belgium. So here we are, standing there. Mother Teresa comes in, and she's like, this group brought a box full of crosses. And Mother Teresa's like, crosses. She was supposed to bless them, so she starts handing out the crosses to everyone. Now, I know there are stories about Mother Teresa now and stuff, and I'm just giving you the experience that I felt at the time. So basically, she gave us some crosses. She showed us around. At the time, we were Christian. She gave us Mass. Took off the sheets she had this little private church there, and then the nuns showed us around, and at one time she sees me and she's like, it's Mark from Belgium. She thought I was from Belgium. So after that, I traveled to places where Christianity originated, the original caves where the first Christians prayed, and Mount Athos. How many people know about Mount Athos here? Okay, so Mount Athos. All right, so basically at one time, you all probably know, Christianity was just a hodgepodge of all kinds of beliefs, right? And Emperor Constantine, who named a city after himself, Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, he kind of consolidated Christianity. He said, anybody that worships the way I do is a Christian. Anybody that's not is not a Christian, right? So that was interesting, but that's what happened to Christianity. And the Christians at that time were the Orthodox type of Christians. So Christianity at that time was kind of, they were like the Orthodox Christians today. They have the beards, the black clothing, and so they were in power and they controlled Christianity. And then the Ottoman Turks overran Constantinople. And all those Christians, and there was no other type of Christian at that point except for Catholicism. Catholics had separated from the Orthodox at that time. And so that's when Catholicism formed. And so the biggest players, the biggest Christian players on earth were, the Orthodox and the Catholics. So the Orthodox fled to Mount Athos. It's one of the three fingers in Greece. You can see it on the slide here. And it's basically a peninsula. It's cut off from the rest of the world. It's its own country. You have to have a permit to go there. They actually check out your background and all that kind of stuff. But it's like this one big monastery, and it's composed of ancient castles that were started to be built when those monks escaped Constantinople. And all the Byzantine treasures, all the treasures of ancient Byzantium are there. They hardly use electricity or cars, so you feel like you're in the Middle Ages. And I truly and honestly gave Christianity a chance, both the Protestant versions, the Orthodox versions, and the Christian versions. So I was there as a pilgrim, praying every day to Jesus, doing the Jesus prayer, and almost actually thought about becoming a monk because, it felt like, wow, these people are here with God. At the time I believed, and I thought, well, they're here with God, and why don't I just stay here with God? Well, I'm not really a monk type of person, So I met my wife on the trip, and we were two people traveling. She was traveling in Poland, I was traveling, and we started to travel together, and I invited her on the trip. And just so awesome. I mean, I feel so grateful. We've been together for so many years, and just the love, such a beautiful, awesome person. So we started to travel together to all these places. And so after that, I studied traditional Buddhism. Went to go see the Dalai Lama. I think it was in McLeod Gange, and just really got in depth with Buddhism, and also studied Hinduism while I was in India, and Animistic and Pagan religions. So I studied all the major religions. Do you know what I found out? There's so many religions. And there's no incontrovertible evidence for any supernatural claim that they make. Not one freaking claim. Not even the core claims that religions make. There's no evidence that they're real. So basically, religion is an opinion. Okay, that's not evidence against religion, but there's evidence that there's no evidence. So religion is truthfully an opinion. But religions do convince people that psychological, natural human abilities originate from the supernatural. So here we have a bunch of people running around convinced, full of faith and belief that their opinions are truth, and not just truth, but even greater than fact. And what is religion? Religion is any organized system of beliefs about the cause, nature, and purpose of existence whose core concepts depend on a belief in the supernatural. So think about that for a second. And why do people believe? I mean, is it because of geographical indoctrination, conquest, isolation, colonization? I mean, think about if you lived in Pakistan right now, chances are very, very good, like probably more than 90%, that you would be Muslim right now. I mean, probably not you, because we're skeptics, right? We'd probably be the rebels that are hung or, tortured or something in prison right now. But the majority of people in the Middle East are Muslim. The majority of the people in Europe are Christian. The majority of people in India are Hindu. And the majority of people in Alabama are what? Christian. How did that happen? Did some magic wand get waved? So religion actually stands on 4 pillars. It stands on theology, which is a fancy word for supernaturally based worldview, consisting of history, true history in some cases, psychology, mythology, rites, and rituals. Us skeptics and atheists, we don't need that. So these 4 pillars are getting crumbled. We embrace science and reason, so we don't need a theological explanation for things. Religion also stands on altruism. It's convinced people that only religious people are good. Everybody else is evil. And that's a crazy assertion. I mean, non-religious, secular people do great things every day, and we do them because we want to, not because we're afraid of some being that's going to squash us like a bug, right? And we're doing altruistic things every day. I mean, the Atheist Alliance of America feeds the homeless, so on and so forth. The Atheist Republic rescues refugees from all over the place. Community. Religion dominated and monopolized community, but that's gone away. Community's gone away because now we have our own communities. We don't need religious communities. I mean, in the past, if you didn't have a religious community, you could be killed or you were ostracized. But now we have our own communities. So religion is crumbling. The 3 out of 4 pillars are crumbling. The last thing that religion has that secular people don't really have is what they call spirituality, which is really nothing more than altered state of consciousness at its truest form. Yeah, there are a lot of wooey things that are called spirituality too, but I'm talking about those things that legitimately religious people can go, I get something out of this that you atheists don't have, right? But now I'm saying we atheists do have that. So we finally found, and we're finally working on the fourth pillar that topples any need for religion, because we do have altered state of consciousness. And the point that I'm getting to is that's what I found out during this trip. And first of all, our communities aren't offering that, aren't offering that very much anymore. So what does an average red-blooded person do after they study all the religions? Any idea? Yeah. So here I am. I traveled the world looking for God, and I became an atheist. But, and this is why I became the president of the Atheist Alliance of America. Hi, Derek Colanduno, reading his social media over there. He's on the board. I had to mess with him. He's on the board. And Mark, thanks for all your support. Everybody. Angie, thanks everyone for all your support. And also, I became the secretary of the board of the Atheist Republic, which, as Angie said, is the largest atheist social media site in the world that we know of. It's over 2 million followers. So, yeah, life is full of love, loyalty, happiness, friendship, contentment, caring, excitement, adventure, right? But life is also death, illness, loss, and discontent. And I still felt that discontent, that anxiety, that stress after everything, after traveling around the world. And it began to dawn on me. The natural state of being human is what? Discontent, right? We can't escape that. So what does an average red-blooded person do when faced with discontent after having met our self-actualized needs? Because, we're all trying to become self-actualized and tap into our most talents and desires and abilities and fun. And then when we do, we're still discontent. So what do we do then? Yeah, we learn to meditate, right? Because, the fact of the matter is this. No matter how much you achieve the greatest passions and desires you have in this life, your brain is always going to come up with one more thing that you need to achieve, It's going to come up with one more thing that you need, one more thing that if you just had that, I've had conversations with people who are like, if I just could have that house, I would be so satisfied. I would need nothing else in my life. If I could just come to the United States, whatever it is. Well, so what's meditation, right? So according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the brain receives about 11 million bits of information per second. But the intellect, our conscious ability to absorb that information, we can only absorb about 50 bits per second. So meditation is altered state of consciousness, is when we kind of shut off that conscious mechanism and we just kind of exist in the unconscious, the subconscious. So mindfulness is really altered state of consciousness. Meditation is really altered state of consciousness. Meditation is purposeful neuroplasticity. Who knows about neuroplasticity here? So recently, neuroscience has found out that we can actually physically change our brain, and we do all the time, just by doing things with the brain. And we can actually but here's the bad part about it. If you don't make use of this power yourself, other forces will change your brain for you, including pressures at work, at home, technology, media, pushy people, painful past experiences, and nature itself. We can shape who we want to be, and we can actually shape whether or not we are content. Now, how about that? That's kind of crazy, isn't it? We used to always think something's going to make us content out there. It's going to be our husband, our wife, our job. Something external is going to come and make us content finally and forever. But it's actually our job to do that. So satisfying external needs does not guarantee contentment. If you take anything away from this presentation, just remember that. So who do we really want to be? What do you really want to accomplish in this life? Is it contentment? Isn't that really the goal of every single activity that we do? Contentment? Everything that we do, aren't we looking for that gratification? So now having learned this stuff, I'm like, all right, I need to learn meditation, right? And so I thought to myself, well, how do I access this altered state of consciousness? Because there's spontaneous ways to do it. I mean, you could walk in the woods, you can watch a fire, you can watch fish floating in a tank, you can play golf, scuba dive, sports, watch the stars, wonder at the universe. That's spontaneous meditation. Well, great, we're already doing that, right? What's the problem with that? The problem is you're not purposefully achieving some sort of brain goal and doing some sort of neuroplasticity with your brain when you do that. Actually, quite the opposite. The world is doing something to you and changing your brain patterns, however it is that it's affecting you. So you're getting indoctrinated if you just do spontaneous meditation. You're getting indoctrinated by the world. That's why I say don't mix religion with meditation, but I'll talk about that in a second. So the purposeful ways to meditate, you can meditate using guided meditation where somebody else does it for you. I don't recommend that. You can do auditory meditation, visual meditation, mindfulness or kinesthetic meditation, in all kinds of ways in between. And I've written books about meditation. My other things talk in depth about meditation, so listen to that. So I'm not going to go into it here. This is just an overview of meditation. But I prefer the mindfulness sort of meditation. So how did I learn meditation? So I figured, I'm in India, and my goal is I'm not going to freaking leave India until I learn how to meditate. So I met S.N. Goenka, the late S.N. Goenka. He has like over 100 meditation centers. He was like the real deal. He's passed away since then. He's one of the people that helped establish the mindfulness meditation movement. And so he basically has this program, these meditation courses where you go and you meditate for 10, 12, 14 hours every single day for 10 days straight. Like no break. You go for 10 days and you meditate for 10 days. And then they even have 20-day courses and 30-day courses, and so I took some of those too. But so basically for like months and months and months, I sat there and I just meditated. And by the way, no speaking during that time either, because the whole point is to cut you away from all the distractions. Because right now we kind of blame our brain patterns on somebody else. Or on the world, we don't take responsibility for what happens in our own minds. So basically, these kind of courses help you see that. They help you see that whatever's really happening in your attitude, your outlook on the world, is coming from the inside primarily. The outside is just a tiny bit of that. And because you don't speak with anyone, you don't write, you don't read, you don't have access to anything but your own brain. So it's like you get locked in you lock yourself in a room, and once you get not in the beginning, but later once you get more advanced, you can go and you can lock yourself in a cell and just sit there and just see what comes up from within. It was the first time that I really met myself. Because up until then I'd been distracting myself. All these distractions, this stuff, and. It was a trip. It was like an acid trip, let's face it, leaving somebody alone in a cell in prison, like what's the worst thing you can do to someone in prison other than, we know all kinds of things. But the worst thing that the authorities can do to a person, right? They leave them in a room by themselves. So what does that say about us and our brain if the worst thing I can do to you is leave you alone with yourself? And so I thought, I'm going to see how bad I really am. I'm just going to leave myself with myself and see what happens, Meditation, real hardcore meditation truly did curb my discontent, stress, anxiety, and it provided me the ability to learn to love myself and accept myself, from within. And the reason that's important is because until we do accept ourselves, we tend to expect other people. We put too much of a burden on other people, but also we can't really truly put all that much on other people. And I'm generalizing. Not everybody is this way, but if we don't feel like we deserve love, then we don't feel like other people deserve love either, right? But the other thing about it too is what if you had a tool where you weren't dependent on other people for love? This doesn't mean you wouldn't make connections and have great love and all that kind of stuff. I have people who I've loved for my entire life and almost my life, and just great relationships, loyal, awesome relationships, true friends, true twin flames or whatever it's called, right? But what if you didn't have to have that either? Like you could just be okay. Like you wouldn't be dependent on other people or other things, And for the longest time, secular meditation was also, along with the woo-y types of meditation, was also thought to be only a subjective experience until neuroscience discovered its physical benefits. So now we see the physical benefits of meditation. So more than 20 studies, University of British Columbia found that on average, practiced meditators tended to have 8 distinct differences in their brain compared to non-meditators. So the most dramatic were an increase in the tissue in the area of the brain that maintains attention and controlling impulses. Thicker tissue in the area responsible for attention control and body awareness. Stronger connections between various brain areas. Reduction in a region linked to negative emotions, sadness, and anxiety. Reduced activity in the region responsible for pain. And, based on many studies, meditation does decrease stress, depression, dissatisfaction, helps change unproductive mental patterns, aids in anxiety disorders and addictions. But also, meditators' brains do look different. Physically, there are physical areas in the brain that are different, that long-term meditators have that non-meditators don't. So we know there's physical evidence for the efficacy of meditation. It's not just a subjective experience. But most of all, I learned that discontent is caused by us. It's not caused by our environment or other people. External diversions will cause more yearning and not satisfaction. And unnecessary stress and unnecessary suffering is an option that we don't have to indulge in. And when I first started taking meditation courses, I would make it a point to suffer. Like, I didn't think like a meditation course was really good unless I freaking suffered. Like the more I just thought like, man, this course was great. I really suffered, And then one day I was like, why am I making myself suffer? Like, why? Like, I can just be happy. And there's no need for suffering. So is meditation problem-free? I don't want to oversell meditation because some people shouldn't be meditating. There are dangers of meditation. So meditation does cause an altered state of consciousness. And what it does is when you're in the process of meditating, this decreases reason-based vigilance during that session. So even if you're meditating spontaneously, like you're sitting in front of a great movie, and you get it, how when you watch a great movie or you listen to a great song or great sex, whatever, and you're in that space, you're in that, like you're just like nothing else exists, you're in an altered state of consciousness. So everything that you're bombarded with at that time, you're getting indoctrinated by, whether it's religion, whether it's the advertisement, that the billion-dollar industry that's indoctrinating you. They know this. That's why they put you in altered state of consciousness. So that's why spontaneous meditation, but anyway, off on a tangent. So meditation is considered to be safe for healthy people. It does release, when you're in that state, it does release unprocessed anxiety, grief, fear, anger, emotional and mental blockages from the past or even made up stuff. And it can produce uncomfortable feelings and sensations. But a good meditation technique, a good teacher will help you through all of that. Another side effect of meditation is when you really learn to be okay with reality, you know that if somebody is like experiencing angst, they're causing it. And they don't have to if they're healthy and so you kind of tend to go like, why do people do what they do? Why do they suffer unnecessarily? Why do they cause unnecessary drama? I understand causing drama to achieve a purpose, but some people just cause drama for the heck of it. It's almost like a diversion from their inner pain, right? And this can look uncaring, but it's not. You're just kind of seeing it for what it is. So what does an average red-blooded person do after learning meditation? So we all prioritize our activism. The reason we're activists, some of us, is because we are doing in the world what we think is the most important cause, right? So we concentrate on we utilize our abilities for that. So I continue to practice hardcore mindfulness meditation, Vipassana. I've been doing so for more than 20 years. I've taught meditation on and off since '94. Founded the Association of Mindfulness Meditation and Secular Buddhism. That's ammsb.org if you want to look, for it more. It's a 501c3. And now I'm starting a coaching program to help people achieve their goals. Because it's not just about physicals, it's about having a balance of being able to have that strong inner core, that inner self, and then achieving your goals, because then results don't really matter. You do your best, and if you've really truly done your best and you haven't suffered, that's all you can do in life. That's really one of the most important things and ways to be, is do your best and truly do your best, fight like hell, and don't get attached to the results, and don't suffer. And stay on a proper trajectory. Keep thinking about what you want to accomplish in this life, because life is so freaking short, so short. And just stay on that proper trajectory. So also, we're gearing up to do another trip around the world. We're going to be traveling around the world in a kind of an entourage and doing presentations like this and stuff like that. So if you want to join us, if you want to travel around the world, you have that capability, because you're part of the skeptic family, part of the atheist family, part of the maybe secular Buddhist family. So I'm interviewing people to go with us, use your skill set, and let's change the world together and do some great things together. I also joined the secular Buddhist movement. This is a movement that's history in the making. It's a reformation, a historical event that school children will read about all over the world for as long as history is taught in classrooms. It's a reformation of an entire religion. And so here's what I've learned about what to do with life. I mean, there's no guidebooks for life, and let's all share our experiences with one another. So it's important to safeguard your physical needs. Yeah, we have to go after that. Unfortunately, too many people, that's all they do, is they concentrate on just physical acquisitions all the time. And then their life goes away for whatever reason, and that's all they have is just physical stuff. So it's so important to find purpose and meaning in life. No matter what that means to you, find purpose and meaning in life. But most of all, if you lost everything and you had nothing, if you learn how not to suffer unnecessarily, then you're golden, no matter what happens. And because humans naturally feel anxiety, stress, and discontent. And we do so randomly for no reason. We tend to blame our stress on our environment, on other people, on ourselves. We're taught to try to purchase happiness, right? I mean, our culture is designed around selling us and enslaving us with distractions and convincing us that we can purchase happiness, and that external diversions and elements are what's going to bring us content. So instead of blaming reality, instead of what does your extraordinary life look like? What do you want it to look like? Go for it. Wouldn't it help if you were not suffering while achieving that? And be vigilant of religion. Because religion and mythology lies when it represents the supernatural as a fact. And we're skeptics, but many have been sold on the idea that life just happens, right? Without us needing to do anything about it, anything about changing our thinking processes. I mean, that's like wanting to learn karate and just expecting it to happen to us one day. So most healthy people can learn to manage their unnecessary suffering. There are secular, evidence-based methods that will help us cultivate this skill. Don't suffer unnecessarily. And if you would like help and support to achieve your trajectory, whatever it is in life, please contact me. I'm at markwgura.com. And in turn, I encourage you to support the Atheist Republic, which is the largest atheist social media site on the internet, over 2 million followers. Atheist Alliance of America. And by the way, the Atheist Republic also helps refugees, atheist refugees from all over the world who are being tortured or killed in their country if they stay there. Atheist Alliance of America is an incubator for atheists and atheist organizations, all secular people. And then Association of Mindfulness, Meditation, and Secular Buddhism, AMMSB.org, that helps with meditation and mindfulness and stuff like that. And obviously find me at markwgura.com. So I'm going to open it up to questions, because I find that really the most that we get out of presentations like this is when we personally talk, and you tell me what you thought, and you challenge me or not, or confirm for me, because again, we're all human beings on this journey of life. And this is a great time to, we come together. This is a great time to discuss, what is it all about. Go ahead and line up behind that mic there. And I really look forward to connecting with you and talking. Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
This was fascinating. This was really cool. Thank you so much for this. Right,
There
we're
you
streaming
are.
this, aren't we?
Yes, we're together.
Hello,
forever.
Internet. Okay. Something I've been studying a lot on my own personal journey is Stoicism.
Cool.
And that jived a lot with what you were saying about suffering unnecessarily, specifically from the idea that it's our opinions of things that cause the suffering, not so much the thing itself. I was wondering if that was something that you had studied on your journey, and if you had any thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, right on. I love Stoicism. I mean, here's the interesting thing. Okay, you've all heard of Alexander the Great, right? So he conquered a lot of the ancient world. And he was a Macedonian who became a Greek and then went into India. And he didn't get very far into India, but he did get into India, where he met with Buddhism. And then he left a lot of people who stayed there for centuries in India, his captains and cities, and there was actually like Alexandrias all over the world. And so that's when the Eastern, Buddhism and even Hinduism came in contact with the Greek philosophies. And then the Romans picked up the Greek philosophies. So when you look at skepticism, it's so similar to original Buddhism. It's crazy. And that's not an accident. These cultures intermingled. And so, the skeptics had versions of meditation. I mean, unfortunately, skepticism died out as a major world movement, and it just kind of stayed underground, and it's resurfacing again. But I love skepticism. And its main core philosophy is that, in the world, things are going to happen to us. Things are going to happen to us. Life's going to happen to us. But the best that we can do is just face it with full power and not be bowled over by our own brain, because that just makes things worse, So, yeah, I love skepticism. Okay, who else?
Hi, I did have a question. If you consider meditation to be one of the many tools that humans can use to get along in life, or do you say it's a solution and something that is maybe, so I take medication for anxiety, and so are you of the mind that meditation can just assist with that, or do you think it's a replacement for that kind of thing?
I think it's not a replacement in many cases, but in some cases it is. So that all depends on your medical doctor, your history, your particular circumstances. But some people, because they meditate, they're not using medication. So the answer is both. But yeah, so meditation calms you down, and when you're calmed down, I mean, you might react at first with your natural passion, anger, drama, whatever it is, right? But if you're a meditator, really a lot quicker than normal, that's going to subside. And then you're going to go, why am I doing, so that helps in human interactions, right? And then the other thing is it makes you less, sometimes people will get it in their head that if I only had that, then I would be totally happy. So they do all kinds of things, including killing, stealing, raping, all kinds of things, because they think if only they only had that. Well, meditation shows you that externally is not as important. If you weren't a meditator, you might have a more exaggerated form of that. So that helps humanity. And just, not being stressful, curbing stress, I think helps, and just existing in society as well. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to find out if your point of view was that people should, obviously there are lots of medication in society, and sometimes it's more than people need, but yeah, just maybe it's a good balance in terms of using the medication, but also the meditation to maybe just mitigate things and keep a nice balance going on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we agree. I think that this is such a personal question because each person is different, and so they have to approach the situation based on their medical history and what their doctor recommends and so on. So, yeah.
And is there anything you would recommend for somebody who's starting? Because I feel like I could probably benefit from this, but I always feel that my mind is just too busy for meditation.
Right.
I get very distracted even if I try to focus. And is there a resource? I know you have a website. Is there a particular resource for somebody who's an absolute beginner?
Yeah, so this is a great question too. So basically, there are a lot of apps out there. There are a lot of books out there, and but you got to understand, meditation is like a surgery of the brain. You're really you're reconstructing the brain to think differently, and meditation is not supposed to be just active when you're sitting there on the pillow. It's supposed to if you do it right, you reprogram your brain in such a way that you're meditating all day, every day eventually, whether you know it or not. It just becomes your process of processing reality. So I highly recommend taking a 10-day course, as shocking as that might be, and going for 10 days. And that's for me, that's the basic. Going to a 10-day course where you go there, you sleep there, and you learn to meditate, because that's if you just do it from a book or an app, it's never going to be, you're never going to get the full extent of the core, the full, the fullness of it. But the quick answer is do whatever you can. So whatever you can. If it's an app or it's a book and that's all you can do that. But if you can, and sometimes even if you don't think you can, make yourself do it. Go do a 10-day course, because that's going to be the way you truly meet true meditation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm Kathy Nash.
Hey, Kathy.
I just wanted to share some things with you. My husband, I'm more or less an agnostic.
Right on.
I believed in God for a while, and I believed in nothing, and then I've been waffling back and forth.
So you're an atheist.
I'm sort of an atheist, sort of an agnostic, sort of sometimes. It seems to me like anytime there's something very serious happening, I start praying. But so I'm a total hypocrite. That's a better description. I'm a hypocrite.
Well, at least you're honest. That's beautiful. Because you know what? Yeah, as long as
somebody's
we know,
dying, then I start praying like really
as
crazy.
long as we know that it's a belief and not a fact. That's half the battle.
Our family is kind of weird. My husband was a philosophy major. He was brought up Episcopal, and he just recently taught a comparative religion class about all the religions, the major ones. We were talking about the Hinduism and everything, but he still meditates, and he still considers himself an Episcopal. So when you said that you studied all of these religions and visited places, and then you came to the conclusion that you were an atheist, not everybody does that. I was surprised. I thought, well, after he does this comparative religion, maybe I'll become an atheist or be more skeptical. But no. So in the morning, he gets up at 5 a.m. and he starts, because it's quiet primarily, because I'm not awake and the kids aren't awake, and he starts meditating, which means following the lectionary and doing all kinds of Episcopal hooky-poo, reading the verse for the day and stuff like that, and prayer and so on. So I just thought I would share that with you because our life is so different. My meditation is watching Monty Don's Gardener's World.
Right on. And spontaneous meditation.
And going outside and weeding the garden.
Yeah.
Just pulling weeds.
It does put you in an altered state, for sure.
And, well, as long as there are no bugs.
And you get indoctrinated by the bugs.
And another form of meditation for me is to do quizzes on Sporkle.
Yeah.
Because I like exercising my brain and memorizing stuff that's totally useless. Like, I've memorized all the presidents, and I've memorized U.S. presidents, and the periodic table, and just weird shit. All the countries of the world, a couple of Shakespeare sonnets and soliloquies. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's totally useless, but I enjoy learning stuff.
Well, it's not useless because, let's face it.
I don't know if that's meditation, but I do it because it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's spontaneous meditation.
It helps me relax.
Yeah, right on.
So I thought I would share that with the
Yeah.
group. And that's how different the meditation can be for people. You just have to keep looking for what does it for you. I mean, just walking in the woods is great for me. Ironically, that's something we both enjoy meditating too.
Yeah.
We both can walk in the woods and enjoy that together. That's it.
Yeah, those are spontaneous forms of meditation, and we all are able to do that. And because let's face it, the consciousness, or the conscious reality, whatever it is, and we're still trying to understand what it is. It's a recent evolutionary development. I mean, animals, humans are animals. Animals didn't have the ability to be conscious for most of existence. And so now we're this animal with this consciousness that's able to perceive our limitations, death, illness, suffering, anxiety. And we need a release. And so nature's built in ways to release that anxiety and that stress and stuff for us. And it's spontaneous meditation. But spontaneous meditation still subjects us to the environment, and the environment indoctrinates us. So it's important, I think, to do meditation purposefully. And certainly the religions they all have ways to meditate. But when they meditate, the difference between religious meditation and secular meditation is religious meditation imparts a message into your brain about religion and about how great religion is and about how true religion is, whether it's true or not. So the more you meditate in a religious way, the more religious you tend to become, even though it might not be true, and the more convinced you are that religion is true. I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, I became an atheist. You mentioned atheism as well. And what does that mean to be an atheist, right? An atheist is someone who is not convinced, has not found anything that's convinced them to believe in some supernatural higher power. And so an agnostic who doesn't yet believe for whatever reason is an atheist as well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So the quest for peace and contentment is certainly a noble one. But there are a lot of people in the world for whom that's not necessarily accessible. So when you think about justice or injustice in the world, how do you square that with the framing that you've set up here in terms of what we should do with our life?
Sure. Oh, that's a great question. Well, it reminds me of the question of, well, we might not have evidence of God, but, just the fact, if there is some being out there, some omniscient being, wouldn't that be great and just? I'm not, we don't have any evidence of reincarnation or rebirth, but, it certainly explains everything, and it just would make so much sense if it existed. Well, it's not about what's best or what I would like the world to be like. It's all about what the world is, and that's all, It's so what I'm sharing here with you is, after traveling the world, indulging in economic success, doing all this stuff, learning all the religions, the best thing that we should carry with us, that's always going to be there for us, that's going to protect us as long as we have an intact mind, and if we don't, eventually it's not going to matter anyway, is some sort of a mind space, a tool that we can use not to suffer unnecessarily. So I think it's really the most important activism in the universe, because if I can teach this to the most oppressed person, I will free them, even if they're oppressed and in prison and getting tortured, and that there's nothing else in existence that gives that form of freedom to people. Because you free a person physically, and the next day some other tyrant's going to enslave them.
I just had a question of, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you think about results-based thinking versus behavioral-based thinking, like looking at the outcome of something as opposed to looking at your own actions and seeing if that's, apart from the results. whether that was, the correct course of action or not.
Tell me more about what this means for you.
I just came across it like playing poker, essentially, where there's a lot of probability and luck involved, but you can kind of think through a certain set of assumptions and take into account a lot of different parameters, and then just think, well, in the same situation, again, apart from what actually happened, was I making the correct decision there, kind of decision-based, and then you can kind of pick that apart and say, well, maybe I was or maybe I wasn't, but just without knowing what the actual outcome of something is, thinking, it could be, in real life, it could be, you say something to your family or something like that is coming from a true place, it's coming from your truth, and you're behaving in a very straightforward way, but it could cause an argument with, someone who doesn't believe this, who doesn't have the same truth. You said something a little bit before about kind of results, and I was wondering if that was what you were kind of going towards.
Please stay up so we can discuss this, because I want your feedback on what I'm about to say. But it's interesting. When I was studying meditation with Goenka, he was kind of like, look, okay, I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. It's my truth. And then however someone else perceives it, that's their issue. And I'm not going to get attached to that. And I know now in the world, that's almost like counterintuitive. We're so much being taught to look at, how did we affect that person and do everything you can to, it's almost like our culture is becoming like this cater, like we think more about catering to other people, how they feel, and we're trying to babysit other people's emotions. And so, I guess from my tone, you can, I don't know. My personal, and this is an opinion, I'm not, I'm not, this is not my level, this is not my expertise, but I just tend to think like, if my intentions are good, and I do my best to communicate with people, and I try my best to communicate with people. Sometimes people stop communication, and then it's their fault that we can't communicate anymore. And what else can you do? If you start to burden yourself with how other people feel, you're going to become an emotional wreck at some point, I think. So I think it is important for us to try to do good. Like when we talk about what's evil or what's good or what's bad, I think evil is when you do something intentional to some other being for your own benefit, and you hurt that other being intentionally so you can gain some sort of benefit, without their consent. I think that's evil. I think that if you look at all the terrible acts that have happened throughout history, and the ones that we probably all would say that was evil, that was uncool, I think it just boils down to that. So as long as we try to do our best not to do that, I think we're being good people. And then if we go a step further and we're altruistic and we try to be compassionate to the best of our abilities, and there are meditation techniques that can help you get more compassionate, more altruistic, where you're basically visualizing love and stuff like that, where you're exercising that muscle, because we don't get to exercise that muscle all that much. And there are meditators who have meditated a lifetime and don't ever use those meditation techniques. So there are different secular meditation techniques for those types of things too. We have a minute and 12 seconds left, but did you have any feedback about this? Or?
I think that's about right. It's a hard thing in our society where we look a lot at outcomes, and and a lot of times my view of it is that the outcomes will average out towards the good if you're coming from a good place.
Yeah.
But it's
right
yeah
on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate your coming out here. Give you a last
sorry,
30 seconds for a
one
shameless
more
plug.
person?
Oh, you want one more question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This might not be well suited to a 1 minute, 12-second answer, but I'm going to do my best. So I'm a high school English teacher. I'm a big fan of metaphors as mechanisms for conveying emotional meaning in particular, things that are hard to logically articulate but that you can feel or intuit. So I am curious how you feel about use of religious symbolism critically as a metaphor for someone who is an atheist. That, for example, the concept of karma, you may not consciously believe in it, but as a kind of symbolic image for not getting attached to the fruit of your actions, sort of like the results-oriented thinking that a previous gentleman was talking about, it may still be useful even if you don't believe in the supernatural elements of
Yeah,
it.
as long as we don't confuse it with facts with opinions. If we truly understand that something is an opinion and we don't sell it as a fact, I think we're good. I think sometimes, though, some religious imagery is dangerous because people do take that slippery slope into believing the supernatural. Right on.
Thank you very much, Mark. And I'm certain that there are many folks who want to continue the conversation, and so we'll have y'all do that out at the tables outside. Thank you so much for coming. Please see Margaret at the back if you are interested in participating in the parade. She has, I think, several costumes left. I'm not sure if I see her, but I think her assistant is here. And don't forget that DragonCon has the Heart Association that we are donating to. Also, I think Margaret will also have you donate to the parade, but we will see you in a little while.